Hi, welcome back or welcome to my channel. It's Sunshine Lorena and this is going to be all the books that I read in February. So February went by so fast and we're already on the 7th of March. I'm filming this much later than I anticipated that I was going to be doing this video, but I'm going to be speaking about all the books that I read in February and I'll go through a couple of stats. First of all, I will do the little chapters below so you can skip ahead if you want to skip over them. So I'll give you a quick few stats and then we'll get into each of the books that I actually read. So first of all, this year I'm doing a books £2 and I don't know why I keep swinging on my chair, guys, but I'm doing a books £2 thing this year. So I originally got the idea from the Discord that Barb's Bookland has, and people are doing it for the whole year. They were just doing it for they read a book, they pay themselves some money, and then they're growing this massive splurge, book buying splurge. I did make a few changes if you haven't heard me speak about this before. So I'm only paying myself £1 every time I read a physical book or an ebook or an audiobook that I actually own. So anything from the library, from the Scribd, etc. does not count because they are borrowed and I did not own them. So the aim is to pay myself for books that I actually own so we can reduce our TBR, guys. And I will dip into the fund when I feel like it. So in February I read 8 books to £2, so that is now an extra £8 in the bank, which takes us up to 13. Now I'd like to caveat that I did DNF one book in February and we will come to that later on, and that is included in the 8 because I attempted to read it. I didn't, and I'm never obviously going to finish it, so I'm counting it because I did attempt to read it and I did get to do 27%, guys, so I'm counting it. This is my rule, my game, my rules, you know. So I read a total of 9 books plus 1 DNF, and again, emotional, mysterious, reflective, dark are all the main big ones on the kind of moods that I'm reading. Not as much as last month, but still pretty high up there with all those feelings and thoughts. For pace, I mostly read medium pace this month. Actually, it's 63%, so that is a large chunk was considered medium pace. In terms of page number, again in that mid-range most of the time, the 300 to 499 at 67%, and my 500 plus is actually 17% of the books that I read, so I feel like I'm doing well and reading books over 500 pages, guys. In terms of fiction, non-fiction, I actually read 22% non-fiction this month, and that was 2 books out of the 9, and I thought that's fantastic, because my non-fiction ratio last year was absolutely shocking, so we are doing well this year. We're doing well so far, guys, we're doing well. In terms of genre, so I read 2 thrillers. As you know, I love a good thriller. I read 2 romances. I mean, it was February, guys, what do you expect, the month of love. Then two books are tagged as mystery, 2 contemporaries, and then we have speculative fiction, race, classic, science fiction, historical, fantasy and autobiography. It's the other ones that have been tagged on this. And then in terms of ratings, my average rating this month was 3.61%. I read 3 5-stars, guys. Can you believe it? I only read 6 the whole of 2021, so we're doing amazing. A 4-star, 1 3.5, 3 stars, and 1 1-star, guys, and we will get to that in a moment, don't you worry, we will discuss that. And that's kind of it in terms of all the kind of stats, and we are just gonna get straight into the books that I actually read. So in February I took part in Sims Readathon, which ran for the whole month, and Olympics-a-thon hosted by Clumsy Charlotte as well, which ran for part of the month. 2 readathons, which is why it was a heavy reading month, but I completed both, guys. I completed both, so go me, go me, go me. So yeah, let's just start with the first book I read in the month, and that was #Follow Me for Murder by Sarah E. Burr, and it's number 1 in the trending topic mysteries. This was an e-arc that I got, and it only came out on the 15th of February, I believe. And I gave this a 3 stars. So it's a cozy mystery which follows our influencer celebrity blogger Coco Klein. She lives in the small town by the beach called Central Shores. It sounds lovely. It's her hometown, small town vibes as you usually get in these kind of cozy mystery books. and she has these new clients and she's helping them with the opening of their new consignment store. However, one day when they're doing the preparation, she walks into the store to find that their store clerk, Stacey, is dead behind the register. And they are worried about this cloud of suspicion being murder suspects, and it's going to impact their business launch. So Coco helps investigate along with a few of her friends, doing some amateur sleuthing to find out who actually murdered Stacey, why was Stacey murdered, and all of that. And I thought it was great. It was fun. It was exactly what I needed. It's a light read. If you love like kind of mysteries, I recommend this one. It's fun. And if you've not tried a cozy mystery, guys, you're missing out. I only discovered them like August last year, and they're great. They're great, like quick, fun reads, and I recommend picking them up if you get a chance. Pick it up. Then the next book that I picked up in February was Girl A by Abigail Dean. I read this part of Chloe Reads Books book club. It was the fiction pick this month, and this is a thriller. It was a very different kind of thriller in the way that it was set out. There was only about 7 or 8 chapters, because each sibling had a chapter, and I'll explain the premise in a moment. So there were large chapters in this, guys. It was large chapters, and it did make it a little bit difficult at times to kind of get through it, because I'm one of those people that absolutely love short chapters that keep me turning the page quickly. I don't know, I feel like I read quicker when they're short chapters, because you're like, oh, I could just read one more chapter because it's only like 5 pages long. This was much longer, guys. These chapters are big. And I ended up giving it 3 stars. I did enjoy it, and there were a few flaws that I felt within it, but I'll just let you know first of all the synopsis. So it's called Girl A, and Girl A is the girl that is known to have escaped. So it's following Lexi, and she is one of the siblings. They grew up in what is named as a house of horrors in this book, her and her siblings, and she really doesn't really want to think about what happened to them in that house. But she is the one who eventually managed to escape out of there, which led to the rescue of all of her siblings. The mother ends up in jail, and the father ended up killing himself. So this is like many years later, after the kids were rescued and they went on with their lives in different families, and the mother passes away in prison, and Lexi's named will of the executor of the will. So she has to go around kind of speaking to her siblings and to kind of sort things out. So you get the backstory of what happened in their childhood, the trauma, like the events, why it was called the House of Horrors, etc., and how she kind of comes to terms of everything with her six siblings. It is like, I do think it was well written. How, like I said, the chapters are long. I enjoyed the fact that you got a chapter per sibling, so it kind of got the backstory and also her relationship with each of the siblings, and kind of find out what happened since the House of Horrors. In this one, I did felt like we did miss like a lot of details. I felt there could be more details about certain things that happened in their childhood. You did get a good kind of backstory, and it was good to kind of see how things unraveled. I did guess one of the twists before it actually happened, but it didn't kind of take away from my experience. Wasn't a fan of the ending, and it was also why it didn't get higher than a 3-star. I did enjoy it, but I do think it could have like wrapped up a little bit better, but I did thoroughly enjoy it. And yeah. Next we have the 1-star read of February, and this is quite possibly going to be the #1 worst book that I will be reading in 2022, because quite honestly, I don't know what could top this. Like, I don't know. And that is Eat, Pray, I was going to say Eat, Pray, Love, guys. It's not Eat, Pray, Love. I have read that and I did enjoy it. This is Eat, Pray #FML by Gabrielle Stone. So this is a memoir. I read this on audiobook. I got it from Scribd. Which I'm so glad that I didn't actually buy this, because I would have been so mad if I spent like actual money. Like, I know I pay for Scribd, but I use Scribd for various other things, so like the cost for me balances out. It's not like I physically bought this book, because I would be mad, guys. I would have been mad. So I decided to read this one because I saw the author's TikToks more than once, and it just kept coming up. I'm like, oh, this sounds like I need to read this. I was like, I need to read this. I was sold. She sold me, guys, okay? She sold me on the premise, and I was just like, yes, I'm here for it. And as you can tell, that was not the case. So she So on her TikToks, and how the premise is described is, she finds out her husband of 2 years has been cheating on her for 6 months with a 19-year-old. She gets divorced, she then meets another man and she falls in love, and after being together for about a month, he asks her to go on a month-long trip to Italy. 48 hours before this trip, he dumps her. She then, rather than stay at home and be sad and cry, she decides to go on a trip to Europe for a month by herself. Okay, that is what our TikToks are. That is what this premise is. However, there is just details missing from that. Okay, like it's not. I feel like it's not a true representation of the full story. But she's doing it to sell her books, obviously. So first of all, you don't get that much about the husband. It does get covered, but I genuinely thought that we'll get a little bit more about that relationship, but it's not. The main thing is this relationship with this new man, Javier, and her month-long trip in Europe. That is the main focus of this book. And the whole Javier dumping her before 48 hours before the trip is not truly representative of the situation. So this is going to be slightly minor spoilers if you do want to read it, so skip ahead to the next book if you ever think you're going to ever read this book. Otherwise, stay and listen to me rant. So he ends up having this really long conversation with her, and his brother had committed suicide about 1.5 years, and he's still quite clearly dealing with that grief. So he has this massive long conversation with her. They have this huge, they have a discussion, and at the end of it, he's like, I need to go on this trip alone. I need to do this by myself. I need to go off on this trip. And she's quite understanding, and it's not like he just out of the blue was just like, don't come with me. I don't want you to come with me. They have this huge long conversation, and I think his reasons are very reasonable. So she's obviously upset. They go to the airport together. She goes off to London, he goes to Italy. What you then get is her throughout the different places she's going, she is constantly like speaking about him. She's constantly like texting him, like instead of, I don't know, giving him a bit of space to deal whatever it is that he is personally dealing with. I have to caveat this, that obviously we're only getting it from her perspective. We don't have it from Javier's perspective, and I'd love to see his side of the story. Guys, I'm telling you, I'd love to see that side. But I feel like she really is just constantly speaking about it, constantly annoying him, and like expecting him to like contact her and like all of this stuff. And it's just like, he's needed to go on this trip alone, and quite clearly he doesn't need to speak to you all the time, In terms of her, she goes to like London, she goes to Paris, Barcelona, Amsterdam, she goes to Mykonos, and then she ends up in Italy. So in this month, she does go around quite a lot. What you get is her drinking a lot, partying, meeting new people, telling them about her like backstory, telling them that she's writing a book, because she is already went on this trip with the mind of writing this book, guys. So she is writing a book, and she quite clearly mentions throughout the whole thing when she is telling us her story, like, oh, like I wrote some of my pages down for my book today, and this is like yeah, like you should be experiencing this trip rather than focusing on writing a book, because you haven't actually lived that experience yet. But that's my personal opinion. And she tells these people that she meets her story, and they're all like, oh, we're shocked, and it's just like, oh. And she basically doesn't actually do that much cultural things either. There'll be one or two things, but for somebody who's traveling around Europe and not actually really experienced the full culture, it's just like, if you're in Amsterdam, go to Anne Frank's museum, go to the Van Gogh museum, like do one cultural thing is what I'm saying. I'm not saying you have to do everything culturally, not to party. Like, you want to party, great, but do one cultural thing and a new place, a new country that you went to, is all I'm saying. What else, guys? And yeah, I mean, I'm not going to rant on forever about this one, even though I would absolutely love to. But basically, I think what really annoyed me is the fact that she decided to go on this trip to write this book. That is clearly her aim, to get out of this trip, going through her like this trip and actually just enjoying the experience. She already had the title picked out as well, and each like kind of chapter section she like already had written like those headings, because I did spy her on Instagram, because I had to find out more information. I also found out that she self-published this, which makes so much sense, because it is written as if it's not been edited. It's literally written like diary entries, like I'm reading someone's diary, no one's actually read over it, edited it, made it like flow better, etc. So that this made so much more sense. And I did see recently that she is trying to like kind of, somebody wrote a comment like, oh, this should be like a Netflix show. And I did see some of her TikToks and it seems like she's trying to push this to become a show. So, you know, she has like podcasts, she has a second book, guys. I mean, she's making money from this. And if you go on Goodreads, you will see that people are either like 1 star, this is terrible, or they're like 5 stars, I needed to hear this story. It's just one of those polarizing books. For me personally, obviously 1 star, but there's people who get something out of it and we can't all have the same opinions. So yeah, some people get out of that experience that she had and some of the things she's saying, but personally for me, it's a 1 star, I didn't get on with it. And I did finish it because, you know, I had to see how it all came to an end. And yeah, there's that, guys. The worst book of 2022. And swiftly moving on, I picked up, the next book I picked up was The Deal by L. Kennedy. And this is obviously a booktube, book talk, bookstagram like favourite. And I've seen so many people reading it and absolutely loving it. And guys, I'm now one of those people. I gave it a 5 star. Like to begin with, I was a little bit hesitant, but then I got into that story, absolutely loved it. Probably love it more than I should do, but you know what? We can't all be reading classics, guys, okay? Let's not judge people for what they read. This was so much fun. It was exactly what I needed to read. Absolutely loved it. So in this one, you've got a dual perspective, as you usually do with romance books. You have a dual perspective, and we are following our main female character, Hannah, and also our male character, Garrett. Garrett is like the captain of like the hockey team, guys. He is a jock, and his GPA is plummeting. He is not doing well in this class and he needs to. And the person obviously that is doing the best in this class, and it seems to be the only one who's really doing well, is Hannah. So he needs Hannah to tutor him, to help him do well in the next test. Otherwise he's gonna not be able to play hockey anymore because you need to have a certain like level of GPA. So he has to ask Hannah for help, and she is not very willing to do that to begin with, but she ends up agreeing to it because Garrett offers to help her get this guy that she has this crush on. And so she decides to end up tutoring him, and he helps her make this other guy jealous so that he'll like her and she will get a date with him, guys. I don't really want to say that much more, but you can work out kind of where this goes. Like I said, it is fun. I absolutely loved it, and it's just amazing. And this is the first in the off-campus series, and I definitely want to pick up the rest of them because they're just 100% going to be a guilty pleasure. I don't know how good the rest of the series is, but this for me was 5 stars. Absolutely loved it. I then picked up The Bride Test by Helen Hoang. This is the second in this Kiss Quotient series. I read the Kiss Quotient back like August, September time, which I gave a 4.5, and then this one I gave a 4 stars. I did really like it. I'm not gonna lie, the epilogue brought it down ever so slightly for me because of where I thought something in the story was going, and then it didn't end up in that place, and I can't say much more than that because that would 100% be spoilers. So in The Bride Test, we have our main male character, Kai, and he has no feelings. He doesn't know how to deal with them. He gets irritated at people when they move his things or deal with him in a certain way. He doesn't know how to love anyone. He doesn't think he can love anyone, and he actively avoids relationships. And he has autism, which is why he acts and behaves and deals with certain emotions in a certain way. His mum decides to help him find a bride by going to Vietnam to find someone and bring them to America and see if he would marry them. His mum ends up bringing a girl called Esme to Vietnam. Esme's goal, she tells Esme, you just need to come see if he would like to marry you, spend some time with him. You have the whole summer. There isn't like he has to get married to her, like just get to know him and see how things happen. So it's not like a forced thing, guys. Esme agrees to the situation. It's a great opportunity for her to be able to go to America and potentially, you know, give her a new and fresh start to her life. And yes, she'll need to try and see if she can convince Kai to marry her, if he actually likes her. But it seems like she is the only one getting feelings in this situation, and I am gonna leave it there, guys. You can kind of work out what's gonna happen in this one, but I did think it was fun. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed all of our characters, and I think The Kiss Quotient is a really great series, and I can't wait to actually read The Heart Principle, which is the third book in the series, and I will get to that at some point, guys. I will get to it. And then we are coming to my second 5-star book of February, and that was The Dragon Republic by R.F. Kuang. I was reading this part of the Poppy War read-along. I'm reading this part as part of the Poppy War read-along, and I'm a co-host along with Charlotte, Jane and Megan. I'll leave the details down below. We will be reading The Burning God and having the live show in April if there's still time to join us, guys. So I'm obviously, this is the second one in the series, so I'm not going to tell you what happens in this one because that would be major spoilers for the Poppy War. So I'll just kind of give you the premise of the Poppy War and kind of give you, I'm just going to give you the premise of the Poppy War. So we have our main character, Rin. She is from the southern part of the country. It is based in Nicara. Now, the books are based on real life Asian history and wars that have happened there. In particular, it's focusing kind of in China, Taiwan, Japan. Like, there's a few different inspirations that are drawn from real life history, so it is trigger warning for war in the series. And we do follow our main character, Rin. She is from the southern part of Nicara, so she is she's a war orphan. She is dark skin, and to the northerner she's seen as a peasant. So she ends up taking part in doing the exam for the Keju, which is this big exam to see if you can get into sort of these schools and get a good education. So she wants to do this because she wants to escape the life that she could potentially have if she is stuck in the south of the country because of her her adoptive mom. She calls her auntie, but they have a certain idea of how they want her to marry someone, and she doesn't want to go to that life. So she's determined. She's going to do this exam. She's going to get educated. She has to get into the best school because she will get free tuition, because obviously her adoptive family are not going to pay for her. So she gets into Sinagard, guys. She surprises everyone and gets into Sinagard, and she thinks, great, amazing. When she gets there, she realizes that the hard work is not over, and actually it's just beginning. The majority of the people at the school are from the northern provinces. They are from the elite, and they've literally been training their whole lives to be in the school. So she does struggle, and the majority of the fellow students and also the other teachers, masters there aren't exactly helpful. There's only one that really does help her, that she ends up studying with, but he's the one that everyone thinks is crazy, and what he teaches isn't real. And the third Poppy War is just a spark away in this, guys, and that's kind of a general summarized version of kind of what happens in the first one, and you'll see where it leads. But this was the second one. I loved getting back into this, seeing those characters that I loved and adored, and just seeing the development of people. Rin develops so much in this. How she is from the beginning to the end is two different people. The development of her character is just amazing, and there is a huge twist in this that just shook me. I was shook to the core, guys, and I'm still not over it. I'm still not over that twist, and I cannot wait to get to Burning God because I need to see how this ends. I need to see how it ends, and that's all I'm going to say about this one because I can't say much more without spoiling it. But the live show is up on my channel, and we do go through kind of general thoughts and then we go into spoilers, so if you do want to check that out, I will leave a link below for that. I then picked up One by One by Ruth Ware, and I gave this one a 3-star. So this is a thriller, murder mystery. It does kind of follow the And There Were None type of vibes by Agatha Christie. It does have that kind of premise, and yes, I give it 3 stars. I thought it was a solid attempt. It was my first Ruth Ware, and I had heard that this isn't her best. I do have Turned the Key on my shelves, and I will get to that sometime this year, hopefully, and I know people absolutely love that one. So this isn't one of her best books for me to pick up, but it was on my winter TBR, and it fit perfectly for both the Olympics-a-thon and readathon, which is why I chose it. But in this one, it is set in this snowy mountains in France, in a ski lodge. The retreat, off-site company retreat, is supposed to be them, discussing things, getting ideas, but this potential kind of buyout situation happening. But there is an avalanche, guys. An avalanche hits, and everyone's kind of stuck with each other and snowed in. One of the employees, the co-workers, doesn't make it back before the avalanche hits, and there is this whole murder mystery situation going on, and how many of them are gonna make it to the end of the weekend by the time they're rescued. It's the best way to kind of me to describe it, and I do think it was a good solid kind of murder mystery vibes to it. I did guess some of like the twist and things, so a little bit disappointed in that, but I still think it's a good solid read. But I am looking forward to reading earlier works by Ruth Ware because I have heard that they're amazing, but this was still good. It's still fun. If you kind of like And There Were None, then you know it has the same sort of similar premise, and I think you would enjoy this. And now for the final 5-star of February, and that was Black No More by George S. Schluler. This book, guys, amazing. So this is one of the 10 classics that I want to read in 2022. I had heard, the only person I've heard speaking about this is Poopy Hall, and it's just, this is so underrated. It was written in 1931, and which when I go into the premise, like you'll see that like it's just, I think it was very revolutionary for the times of what he spoke about. But in terms of like ratings, if you go on Goodreads, there's this like a few hundred written ratings, and maybe like people have rated it about 3,000 ratings. But if you go to something like the Picture of Dorian Gray, there is like hundreds of thousands actual written reviews and like over 1 million actual ratings on there, so you can see the difference. This is a classic that is very much went under the radar, and not many people have read it, and it's so underhyped. I think, you know, you need to pick this up. I think it's amazing. I absolutely love this. We'll get into the premise in a moment, but I think it was so good. More people need to read it, and it's just, yeah, it just went under the radar. And guys, you need to read it, okay? So this is science fiction, and I know what you're thinking, but you know, I'm not really a science fiction reader. It's very much hit or miss for me if it works, but this definitely worked for me. It's also got a satire element to it as well. There are comedy moments, you know, it's just, it has a little bit of everything in this book. So in this book, the question that it really kind of delves into is what would happen to the race problem in America if black people turned white? Would everyone be happy? So this is like I said, this is satire. It's the story of Max Disher, a dapper black rogue of an insurance man who, through a scientific transformation process, becomes Matthew Fisher, a white man. Matt dreams up a scam that allows him to become the leader of the Knights of Nordica, a white supremacist group, as well as to marry the white woman who rejected him when he was black. It is a hysterical, this is like a hysterical explanation of race in all its self-serving definitions. If you can't beat them, turn into them. So yeah, that's, you know, that's what it delves into. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to like give away too much things that happens to it, but it is hilarious. The satire and just asking the question like, what would happen? What would happen if black people turned white? What would the situation be? And this was in the 1930s, so things were very different then compared to now. And you know, I can understand why this didn't become popular because of the time it was written and the situation as well at the time, because there's still Jim Crow laws and everything in place. But yeah, guys, read this. It was so good. I was so happy that I picked this up. And if you're going to read any of these books that I'm speaking about that I read in February, this is the one that you should pick up. And the last book that I finished in February was Jump by Daniela Moyes, and I give this a 3.5. I read this as an audiobook. It is a memoir, and this is how a memoir should be done, guys. Compared to pre-FML, this is how it should be done, okay? This should be done. It had structure, it was written, it was clearly edited, it was well structured, well written, and yeah, I did thoroughly enjoy this one. Previously, I never really rated memoirs, unless like I was like blown away, like wow, this is 100% like 5 stars, like this, yeah, because I kind of felt like I was judging someone's personal story. But I'm starting to be better at rating them and kind of just base it on how it's structured, how it's written, without kind of letting the element of their personal story kind of influence my rating. So this one, it looks at her like kind of growing up, burning out, bad decisions, reckless adventures, love and loss. It's about what happens when you let go of everything you need and are confronted by who you really are, and how on the other side of this confrontation lies true contentment. And it kind of opens up with her in this car, she's in traffic in Dublin, and I think her boyfriend, if I remember correctly, was like next to her, and she ends up having like this breakdown, and then you kind of go back because she says she needs to tell you about her past before she gets to that point, and then how she went traveling afterwards to kind of find that person who she is. So it was well structured. It went through it in quite a very logical order. I thought you got a lot of information, and her telling us everything that happened, and kind of also, I suppose, the way she wrote it was also kind of exploring things herself of how things happened and how she got to that point. And I think it was really good. And the audiobook is read by her, so it is, I do enjoy an audiobook when it's read by the author. I just feel like you get that little bit extra element. So the book I did not finish in February was 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez, and this was also one of the classics that I wanted to read in 2022, and I'm counting it because I did attempt. I got to 27% of the way through, and this is a biggish book. Like, I feel like it was around 500-ish pages. It is an ebook, so I could be wrong on the numbers. So I did read like a good chunk of it. I'm not gonna lie, guys, I read a good chunk of it. I even was using the audiobook when I was reading it to try and help me through it. So long story short, I read Love and Time and Cholera many years ago when I was doing a reading challenge of a book a week. I forced myself to continue reading it. I wouldn't read multiple books at the same time, but I was like, I have to read it. Didn't believe in DNFing, absolutely hated that. And I wanted to see if actually, was it just that book, or did I not get on with this kind of writing structure and style? And the fact that I DNF it, guys, you probably can tell that it wasn't for me. It is a book that I've seen reviews that are like, people either really love it or they don't. So it is, again, one of those books that's kind of, you get two very, very different opinions. There is magical realism in it, and it's kind of, it's a modern classic as well. It is set like a long time ago, but you never actually fully find out, at least at the point I got to, I didn't know what time period it was actually taking part in. So in this book, it's chronicling first century life in this town called Mocando, and the lives of 6 of the Benadir generations. So it's from Jose Arcadio and Ursula through their son, and it kind of goes on throughout the generations. And it's how they were like one of the founders of this kind of town village, and how things kind of grow and change over the period of time. What I didn't like about this book, guys, so it was a little bit of a jumpy timeline. So I feel like, there's a lot of back and forth in certain people's timelines. So like Jose Arcadio, which is the father, like the main founding father, and like you're going through like kind of his timeline, and then all of a sudden you go back, and then it mentions things thinking forward, and then it jumps to the son and back and forward, jumps to like the other son, back and forward, and it was just all a bit confusing. It's all a little bit confusing, guys, not gonna lie. And there are characters with the same names, trying to keep up with everyone. There are some weird things that happen in this as well. There's like one of the sons, this will be a slight spoiler, so if you don't want spoilers for this, skip. But it follows on the sons, how he saw this girl when she was 9, and he like basically wanted to marry her. He asked the family, and he had to wait until like she reached puberty, and it was all very weird, guys, okay? Very, very weird. And also in the family previously, it's mentioned that there has been some incestuous things going on, so a bit weird. And if I remember correctly, in Love and the Time of Cholera, he did touch on that sort of stuff again, so seems like he writes about this sort of things in his books. I'm not entirely sure. So yeah, the jumpy timelines, also some of the topics in this, also the fact that I didn't really know what the point was. Like, I feel like we're going through like this time, but I don't know what the main theme is, what we were trying to achieve, you know what I mean? In a book, I like to kind of know what the main aim is. If it's a thriller, someone has been killed, for example, and you're trying to find out who was the killer, what happened. There's an aim. Whereas this, I didn't know where we're going, basically. We're going through these lives of this family in this town, and things happening, and going back and forward all over the place. So yeah, not for me, guys. It was not for me. However, that is the last book I'm going to speak about that I read, or at least attempted to read in February. Yeah, that was all of them. Let me know if you've read any of these, what you thought of them. So yeah, let me know if you've read any of these books, what you thought of them. Do you agree with me on some of these ratings if you've read them? Comment, like, subscribe, and I hope you see you in the next one. Bye!